Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyid al-Mursaleen, amma ba'd, fa'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem, wassalatu wassalamu alayka ya Rasulullah wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Habiballah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I will inshallah recite a short recitation as a blessing. It's a prayer and it's the opening of the Holy Book of the Holy Quran. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Amen. Translation. In the name of Allah, God Almighty, the most kind, the most rewarding. The praise belongs to God, the Lord of all the worlds, most kind, most rewarding. Master of Day of Judgment, you alone we do worship, and to you alone we seek help. Guide us to the right path and the path of those on whom you have granted favors, not of those who have gone astray, nor those who are lost. Amen. So we start with the holy prayer of the Holy Quran, and thereafter, Jazakallah khairan, thank you very much, and welcome, marhaba, ahlan wa sahlan, for joining us in our weekly community talk event, which is put onto the Community Association YouTube channel as well, and also our partners, Meen Madad Welfare, and also today our other partners. This program is brought in association with Preston Community Hub, and he will be co-hosting with me, Taz Ali, who's one of the founding members and part of the Preston Community Hub, also a representative of the local mosque, Masjid Aqsa. So he will be co-hosting the event, and we are grateful for our panelists to join us. We got councillors from various different parties, and also from various different parts of Preston. The reason being, because it's not a political debate, as Deep Blue Community Association, neither Meen Madad or neither the Preston Community Hub is a political organizations. We are community organizations run by the community for the community. And we, time to time, have sought advice from all you professionals, party members, and business people, and the wider community. So the point of this program was to celebrate the achievement throughout the pandemic from the council, the county council side, also to educate what the county council does and what does the city council do for the community. Thus, our title being that what does or what have the county council and the city council done for us, and what can they do for our community? So this is what the event is about, to celebrate and to find out what you have been supporting as professionals, as councillors from different parties and different wards, and also to outline the positives of the way out as a local government, as a local politicians, councillors from Preston, the road to recovery. We pray that it is soon, and it will take us out in April, and hopefully by June this pandemic will be over. So we are grateful that you have joined us. Thank you very much for that. So that's a brief description. I'm just going to highlight it quickly in Urdu as well, that हमारे जितने भी हजरात सुन रहे समात कर रहे हैं कि आपसे गुजारिश है कि ये पॉलिटिकल कोई ऐसी डिबेट नहीं है, ये सिर्फ है जो हमारे ये काउंसलर्स हजरात डिफरेंट पार्टी के साथ ये इनके तल्लक वास्ते हैं और मेंबरान हैं, तो वो ये क्या कम्युनिटी के लिए क्या करते रहे हैं, और स्पेशली कन्फ्यूजन है कि कम्युनिटी के लिए काउंटी काउंसिल की क्या हैसियत है या काउंसिल की क्या हैसियत है, समटाइम मिक्स अप हो जाता है। तो इसलिए हमने ये प्रोग्राम रखा। तो उम्मीद है आप सब पसंद करेंगे। आप टेक्स्ट भी कर सकते हैं, हमारे शोएब भाई नंबर जो स्क्रीन पर लगाएंगे इंशाल्लाह, as soon as हमारे होस्ट जो को होस्ट है ताहिर अली जो आगे इस प्रोग्राम को बढ़ाएंगे, तो इंशाल्लाह उसके बाद हम मुख्तसरन क्योंकि टाइम इतना नहीं है उर्दू में मुख्तसरन क्योंकि बाज़ बुजुर्गों ने गुजारिश की है कि थोड़ा थोड़ा कोई मुख्तसरन जो है ना उर्दू में भी इसका ट्रांसलेट करें। सो इसलिए हमने ये प्रोग्राम रखा है। जज़ाकल्लाह खैरन, ये मी मदद और प्रेस्टन कम्युनिटी हब और DCA की तरफ से ये प्रोग्राम organized kiya gaya hai. Jazakallah khairan. Brother Tahir, I would pass it to yourselves. Obviously, you're my co-host and you will be introducing yourself as well. And obviously, as our panelists will come on, you will introduce them as well. And is that okay? Do you want me to do that part?
No, it's fine. I think,
I think normal.
I think the best thing probably to do is, again, my name's Taz Ali. I represent Preston Community Hub and Majid Aqsa within the St. Matthews and Fishwick Ward, and that's predominantly the areas that I work in. But again, you know, it's about community work and the community spirit that we've actually attained over the unfortunate cause of the pandemic, and about building relationships with all forms of communities to try and get to work for the betterment of society. So I think that's probably just a little introduction for myself. What I would like to do is probably go through the panelists, and if they can give them 35 to 45 seconds each, just a quick to give a quick introduction in regards to what their roles are and what they actually do. And I think that's probably a fair representation from themselves in their own words to introduce themselves for our viewers to understand and see what they do. So if we start with County Councillor Frank, if you could just give a quick introduction of yourself, and then we'll follow it through with each individual. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me on a show today. I've been a county councillor for since 2005, 16 years to date, and I've been involved, obviously, in different committees in the past. But since 2013, my role, given from my leader, is I've been put as a chair of the Lancashire Fire Rescue, which is a demanding job. You know, it covers 39 stations in Lancashire.
Wow.
And you know, and as I said, there's committee meetings going on and so forth. So in the main, I have since 2013. My leader has given me the privilege to represent Lancashire Fire Rescue as the chair, but I also in the past I did serve on committees on the county council. Prior to that, health and well-being, children, young people, pension, and so forth, and a few more. So you know, regulatory committees and development committee. So. That is I'll give you a brief introduction of what in my 16 years has actually, you know, I've been doing during the past 16 years.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Thanks for that brief. We'll go on to, I'm just going to go via the post. The next one is Councillor Daniel Duckworth. Daniel on? No? Well, we'll move on. We'll go to Councillor...
Sorry, Daniel's on. Daniel's on. Sorry about that.
Hello, I was it? No, don't worry about it. Yeah, my name's Councillor Duckworth. I'm councillor of Shara Green Ward in Fulwood. I've been councillor since 2019. So yes, and then obviously today I've been helping obviously Deepdale Community Association with the clear up as well on Borough Road. So which has been good as well.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that. We'll move on to Councillor Ron Woolen. Apologies if I got the name wrong.
I unmuted myself. Thank you there, Karam. That's very good. Thank you for inviting me along this evening. I'm here to obviously learn and listen and take an awful lot of information in today, hopefully. I've been the City Councillor for Preston Rural East for the last 4 years. And I'm deputy leader of the Conservative group Preston City Council, and I'm shortly going to be the candidate for Preston North in the forthcoming elections. So thank you very much again for inviting me along.
Thank you for that. We'll move on to Councillor John Potter from the Liberal Democrats.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm actually a triple-hatted councillor. So I have been a city councillor for 10 years in the Cadley ward, which is in Fulwood. I've also been a county councillor for Preston West since 2017, and I'm also a parish councillor because I just can't get enough council meetings. Outside of politics, I am a very keen rugby fan, and I'm on the management committee at Preston Grasshoppers. I'm also a trustee of the Intact Centre charity in Ingle, which does fabulous work. So so I have many strings to my bow, but there are just some of them. And most importantly, being a community councillor in itself is, regardless of committees and everything else, actually being in the community is one of the key things we should be and do.
Brilliant, thank you. Just a quick one, John. If you could just advise the viewers what wards that you represent.
Yes, so for a city council, I'm on Cadley ward, which is in Fulwood. For the county council, I am Preston West. And for the parish, I am Ingle and Tankerton Neighbourhood Council.
Right, brilliant. Thank you very much for that. Right, let me go back to my picture. Right, next one is Councillor Navida Khan, please.
Assalamu alaikum. Hello, everybody, and good evening. I'm Councillor Navida Khan. I'm the councillor for the Plungington ward for the last 4 years. When I first came to be a councillor, I was also elected on and became a cabinet member. So I'm the cabinet member for Communities and Social Justice. I'm also the Armed Forces champion and also the champion for older people as well. Outside of my city council role, I'm heavily involved within the community. I represent many community organisations. I'm the chairperson of the Lancashire BME Network. I've also worked with Sahara in Preston as a project manager. And currently, I'm also the candidate for the Lancashire County Council elections for the South West Division, which is the Leah Larches ward and Ashton. That's it for me for the time being. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. That gives us a fair representation of what you do. Thank you, appreciate that. Quite a demanding role. Right, we'll move on to Councillor Matthew Brown, who is the head of the City Council. Over to you, Matthew. Thank you.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for the invite. Really great to see everyone in Deepdale who might be watching in, and good to see so many colleagues. I'm Matthew Brown, leader of Preston City Council currently. I've represented Tulketh from 2002, and I then moved to the Plungington ward in 2018, so I've been around for some time. Previous to that, I was in the cabinet for a number of years, and obviously the last few months have been really trying to steer the city with colleagues through the current pandemic, which has really disproportionately affected certain parts of our community. And that is something we've got to look at as we move forward and out of it, really, because it's been very much linked to deprivation and other things, the people who've really been at the brunt of how bad it's been, to be honest. So we've all got to keep that in mind. Really pleased to be here. I don't have much time to do anything else apart from the work I do at the moment, but I'm also standing for Preston Central West in the county council. So after so long, I thought, well, you can make more change if you're on the county council as well. I'm not doing it out of any personal ambition. It's just, there's lots of resources at the county council as well as the city council. So, yeah, I'm really pleased to be here and look forward to the debate. Thank you.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you very much. I think that leads nicely onto our first question. And the first question that we get from or the questions I've been actually coming is, what's the difference between the city council and the county council? So obviously, in regards to, we've obviously got the Preston City Council, then you've got Lancashire County Council. So what sits in what's remit? And again, open to the panel. Don't know who the best person to answer this question is, but that's one of the questions that's come through from members who have tuned in, asking the differences between City Council and County Council.
Do you want me to come in at all?
Yeah, I think yeah.
Go ahead,
that's
Frank.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry about that. Can I just, sorry for interruption. That's because County Council Frank obviously has been in the County Council. So if you can elaborate on that briefly, and then Matthew Brown, please, if you can elaborate about this is a very important question. This was asked by quite a few of the elders, and I need to translate into Urdu as well. So I'm going to try to do the questions. Introduction, everyone knows everyone, so that's good. But the explanation of a question and the answer, I'll try to do it briefly into Urdu as well. So, County Councillor Frank, if you can tell us the difference, please.
Yeah, thank you, Cameron. Well, the difference is enormous. Lancashire County Council is comprised of 12 districts, and also there's 2 unitaries as well involved. Obviously, Preston is one of those. Now, the combination of the Lancashire County Council county councillors, this 84, and it's a mixed bag. Conservative, which is the moment ruling group, Labour, Lib Dem, Independent, and I don't think I miss anybody else.
Green.
John and Green. Sorry, the Green from Lancaster. Yes. So that's what it is. It's a big house, isn't it? In comparison, also the role of the county council is massive. Because there's a lot of services whereby people they might not be aware. For instance, they're dealing with adult and social services, education, regulatory committees, development committees, and so on. And also the formation of the county council is you've got the leader, you've got the deputy leader, then these cabinet members, which they are in their own right, they've been given the role, for instance, the cabinet member for adult and social services, the cabinet member for, what do you call it, environment, and of course, on top of that, there's a lot of officers, senior officers, whereby they actually working in conjunction with the cabinet member. If you are a backbencher, which I am in a way, you don't get to know very much in these days because of the system that is in. But nevertheless, don't mean to say we're not having influence on that. We are, and and I'm sure Councillor Potter will say that we always challenge the decision and of the ruling group, and sometimes we win, sometimes we lose, and that's how the system goes. So as I say, I don't know what's going to happen on May the 6th. As you say, I'm up for re-election, like it's been indicated, and hopefully, the colour will. If the colour changes, we'll be able to look after our people a bit better, with better sympathy than what you got at the moment. Sorry, I don't want to go into politics.
Thank you very much for that. Just conscious of time as well, and time got quite a few questions. Thank you very much for that. Can I just briefly, just briefly before we come on to yourself, just highlight the difference what County Councillor Frank has highlighted in Urdu, just briefly. Basically difference यही कह रहे हैं कि देखिए जितने ये बड़े बड़े काम है ना, यानी फुटपाथ के या सोशल सर्विसेज के, ये जो बेसिकली स्कूलिंग के, ये सब कुछ जो है ना, अभी ये सब काउंटी काउंसिल के नीचे आता है। तो लिस्ट बहुत बड़ी है, तो इसलिए इसमें नहीं जा सकते कि इनके बहुत बड़े डिपार्टमेंट्स है। और आप अगर जाएंगे तो उर्दू में ये इंफॉर्मेशन अवेलेबल है, उनकी पार्टी पर जाए तो इंशाअल्लाह काउंटी काउंसिल का उर्दू का जो इंफॉर्मेशन है इसमें है। मगर ये जितने बड़े बड़े काम हम समझते हैं कि काउंसिल नहीं कर रही या काउंसिल कुछ नहीं कर रहे, ये अक्सर जो है ना अक्सरियत में ये काउंटी काउंसिल के इदारे में आती है। Jazakallah for listening. Inshallah, we'll move on to the next question. Before we do that, sorry, Councillor, was it John Potter? Taz, wanted to say something?
Yeah, if you can bring Councillor John Potter in.
Yeah, just very briefly. I mean, one of the big differences between Preston City Council and Lancashire County Council is the sheer size of it. And you can see that. You've all probably just got your council tax bill. And actually, so you can see over 70% of your money goes to the county council because they have huge ticket items such as social care, such as your roads, such as public health and schools. While only 16%, I think Matthew will correct me, but I think it is 16% goes to the city council, which does incredible functions. But the county is a massive organisation; it's huge compared to the city council. So that's the big difference, is the sheer scale of the issues the county has to deal with, and because and they're a lot more expensive, those issues as well, in particular social care.
Councillor John, I'm glad that you mentioned roads. We'll come back to roads in a minute. I'll just get Matthew to I'll get Matthew to give us the information in regards to the city council perspective. Thank you, Matthew.
Yeah, just very briefly, it's obviously the City Council provides services like recycling, refuse collection, licensing, taxis and restaurants. We do quite a bit around housing. We don't have a housing stock, we have a strategic housing function, but we're quite ambitious as a city council. So the advantage we have is obviously our area is just a Preston area, the district of 141,000. And crucially, we do work with lots of our big institutions like the university, the hospital, local businesses. And we've also got a community engagement function, and we do a lot around economic development and equalities. So, you know, even though we are smaller, we're still very ambitious to move Preston forward, to be honest. So that's it in a nutshell.
Thank you very much. That's go on, Cameron. I'll let you do the translation.
So quickly on that as well, आपने समाप्त किया कि जैसे कि लिबरल डेमोक्रेट्स के काउंसलर ने भी इसका किया तस्करा कि देखें कि जो काउंटी काउंसिल का इनका रीमिट बहुत बड़ा है, तो वो डिपार्टमेंट तो आपको समझ चल ही गई है जैसे उन्होंने मेंशन की, मगर जो हमारी बजट का जो है ना, वो बजट इसलिए क्योंकि ज्यादा बजट उधर ही जाता है फिर 70% इन्होंने कहा कि 70% सिर्फ काउंसिल की तरफ आता है, उनकी रीमेट के अंदर आता है। उनके पास ये है कि जो रेफ्यूज यानी हाइजीन कलेक्शन वगैरह, बिन कलेक्शन, ये जो है ना, ये इनके अंडर है, और कम्युनिटीज वर्क के अंदर साथ ये काम करते हैं, ये भी इनके अंडर है। और जो काफ़ी इनका जो पहले था रोल, वो रिड्यूस किया गया है, और इसका जो ज़्यादा तौर काउंटी काउंसिल के अंडर आ गया है। तो इंशाअल्लाह आज ये जब गुफ्तगू चलेगी तो आपको समझ चल जाएगी इंशाअल्लाह। तो ये भी उर्दू में इंफॉर्मेशन तो आपके लिए हम इंशाअल्लाह फॉरवर्ड करेंगे हमारे व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप। Thank you, Chaz. Pass it back to you.
Thank you. Yeah, so obviously, again, the question regarding roads, we'll come on to that. I think that's quite a topical discussion, especially within the Deepdale area. Probably, to be fair, in my ward too. But there's obviously a lot of potholes, if we call them potholes. There's a lot of issues with the roads. And every time we kind of try to put this on the attention, both council and county council-wide, it kind of becomes a bit of like a blame game, if you will. So we just want to know who, A, is responsible and what can be done. Over to who would like to be brave enough to answer that?
I can answer that if you want.
I think, can we, sorry, before we come to you, Frank, I mean, Councillor Ron, would you to add something?
All right, sorry.
County council level, you know, obviously the explanation was given from Frank and from John. Would you like to add anything as what, obviously, in terms of the county council role, you are, obviously you're a councillor, but I was hoping that you're going to highlight, are you running for our chair's, you know, a position, or are you thinking of joining the county council?
Yeah, thank you for that. Just to explain, I'm running for election in May for the county council. I'm not actually on the county council at the moment. What I can say from my own knowledge is that county council has, of course, spent a significant amount of money on repairing potholes, etc., on local roads around particularly the Preston area, and there is a budget being set aside for extra funding for roads on Lancashire County Council to repair potholes, etc., in the coming weeks. There was about a year or so back a new machine which was purchased by the county council to do very much quicker repairs to the roads. A lot of you may have seen it. But to be honest, I'm very keen to see roads improve. I do understand and realise there is a problem in a catch-up process to try and repair all the roads in the county. It is a massive task, and it is certainly, if I do get elected onto the county council, it will certainly be a high priority for me as a councillor.
Thank you very much। ये हमारे आजाद जो है रॉन वुलम काउंसलर और ये काउंटी काउंसिल की पोजीशन के लिए इनकी उम्मीद है, तो उम्मीदवार है, तो इसलिए इन्होंने कहा कि ये इस पर बहुत तवज्जो देंगे, रोड पार्ट्स वगैरह और जो फुटपाथ्स, आपने पता है क्वेश्चन काफ़ी हैं, तो आर्गर रोड का भी सिचुएशन है, सेंट मैथ्यूज रोड में भी सिचुएशन है और दीगर जो एरियाज हैं, तो इंशाअल्लाह इस पर मौजू पर आगे जाकर बात होगी। Brother Tahir, back to yourself.
I just wanted a bit more clarification in regards to who does it sit with, the roads and any potholes. So I assume it sits with the county council.
Yeah,
yes,
that's right. Okay, and so what sort and payment? So what sort of influence does the city council have over that, if any?
Well, all city councillors, and in fact any member of the public, can report potholes to the county council via their online reporting system, which I encourage all of us to do. One of the things, though, that I think needs to be done, I think all the political parties want more money to be put into roads to improve the roads. So currently the Conservatives are in charge of Lancashire County Council. Whether that remains after May, we will obviously wait and see. But one thing I think what needs to happen is that, I know Ron mentioned about a machine that can do potholes quicker. I think we need potholes done better as well. So instead of just splodging some tarmac down, which then breaks up again in a matter of days and weeks, actually proper road restructures, road resurfaces, and proper treatment of potholes. So you don't have to do it 3 times, so it doesn't cost you 3 times. And I think that is a sensible way that we need to be going, because if you don't invest in it, it costs you more in the long run.
No, thank you very much.
I mean, that makes sense. We can move on with that. Sorry, Councillor Frank, I interrupted you earlier.
No, that's fine.
I think that's what John was saying was about doing the proper job, and I think you elaborated that before as well. So if we can move on, Brother Taz.
Yeah, I think the next question we'll move on from potholes and roads. We'll go on to we'll look at the other interesting thing that we've actually all experienced over the last 12 months, and that's COVID-19, and obviously the setup of grassroots groups helping the community. So the question, this is probably aimed at everybody really. I'll probably ask Matthew to begin with, if that's okay, because during the COVID, many grassroots groups, new and old, have started helping the community. So as a city council, what have you or your party members done to help those groups, and what did you deliver to these community via these groups? So probably a bit of a meaty one in that sense, but in regards to obviously work-wise what the city council's done and what support has been provided to these groups. And I suppose the main aim is to help support vulnerability within the community as a whole, and particularly Preston.
Yeah, I mean, what we did very early on is we set up a dialogue, especially with our community association, so that's ongoing. We've also set up a dialogue with faith communities, so obviously there's representation from Mukhtar, who's the representative of the Muslim community on the Faith Covenant, and other organisations as well. But crucially, we've done a lot around food, because we took a political choice as a Labour council about 3 years ago and Nawida will say a little more because she's on the ground with this, to actually feed families outside term times. So obviously when school meals come to an end, families can't access food. So we've worked with Fairshare, which is a charity. We set up food hubs, and that then expanded during the pandemic. So we managed to, get a million meals, which we've helped support. Obviously, the community groups are doing a lot of the work, but we're providing the infrastructure as well, which is really positive. But then in addition to that, we're doing stuff around helping people cope with grief and other things, because a number of our councillors have managed to volunteer around counselling, as well as delivering food from food banks. So we're doing that as well, because it's got a big part of coming out of this, because there's got to be a collective sense of loss, isn't there? in terms of people who've lost people, but also in terms of long COVID and mental health. So, you know, we managed to set up that infrastructure with community groups as much as we can. And then finally, and really importantly, it was the council that bidded for community champion funding. So obviously we've got to, work with communities really strongly around dealing with issues around vaccine hesitancy, you know, making sure that there's social distancing and other measures like testing are encouraged amongst all communities, that we challenge these stereotypes that these things are, you know, against communities when, you know, vaccines and other things are there to support communities. So we're doing that really. I mean, obviously it's dependent on the funding we get from government, what we can do to some degree, but we think we've responded as well as we can do in the circumstances. And then other things we've done as well. I mean, there was Indian students at the university who supported too. And again, Noida and the team were behind that as well, in the sense that they were really struggling. Many of them actually close to starvation, I was hearing at the time, because they couldn't get back to home because of the pandemic, and the landlords weren't being particularly kind to a number of them. So we arranged something with the university there. So it's been a huge effort, to be honest. And you know, I'm not going to get party political with this, because I think every party at Preston City Council have been really supportive and trying to do everything they can. And I think, all religious organisations in Preston, Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Hindu, Sikh, I think they've all really shown that we actually do care about each other and we need each other. And that, when we cooperate, we actually get things done a lot better, because we're all under a threat which is invisible, isn't it? It's not something we can say, it's invisible. But, what we can't do is go back to what we had before. As you've seen, there's too much inequality in our community. And, I'm quite keen to make sure that we, especially economically, we try to lift people up and we try to tackle inequalities which have helped decades in Preston.
Well, that's great. Can I just quickly translate before you move on, Taz? Yeah, so यही गुजारिश कर रहे थे कि जब ये कोविड हुआ, कोविड के साथ बहुत ज़्यादा कम्युनिटी के जो इशू सामने आए, कि एक फूड पॉवर्टी थी, कि जो गुर्बत बढ़ी, और ज़ाहिर है फैलो वगैरह वगैरह जितने मसाइल आपको समझ हम सबको पता ही है। तो इसलिए उन्होंने बहुत कोशिश की कि जो छोटे ग्रुप्स हैं जैसे डीप कम्युनिटी एसोसिएशन, प्रेस्टन हब वगैरह, और जितने जो डिफरेंट मज़हब के लोग तबके हैं, कि इस्लाम, जूडिज़म, क्रिश्चियनिटी, सिखिज़म, हिंदुज़म, पीपल ऑफ नो फेथ, हर तबके के साथ उन्होंने कोशिश की है कि रिप्रेजेंटेटिव करने की कोशिश की है। तो अक्सरियत में काउंसिल का रोल जो ज़्यादा इस तरफ बढ़ गया था, इसलिए ये कह रहे हैं कि हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं। और इन्होंने दाद दी सब कम्युनिटी जितने भी हमारी हैं पार्टीज, सब ने कोशिश कर रहे हैं अपनी अपनी जगह। तो ये कह रहे हैं कि इसके बाद भी हमारी यही है नीयत कि इसको आगे बढ़ाएं, मिलजुल कर काम करने की।
Can I just bring Councillor Navita Khan in, because again, as part of her cabinet role in regards to community and social injustice, she's played a valuable role, to be fair, in setting up grassroots organisations, including ourselves. So I'd just like Councillor Navita to probably bring that a bit more to life in regards to what's been achieved.
Yeah, thank you very much, Taz and Cameron. I would just like to carry on from what Councillor Brown was saying. It's firstly just to say that equality, fairness and social justice are the key principles for Preston City Council, for us as a Labour Party as well. So we've applied those during this pandemic. This was seen that equal access was given to all communities right across the city in every possible way. Now, the VCFS sector, grassroots organisations, faith, community groups have played a crucial role during this pandemic, and a crucial role in collaboration, in partnership working, not only representing and meeting the needs of their own community groups, but actually working together right across the city to share and respond to the needs of all groups together. And I think that has been vital, and that really shone out during this pandemic. And I think this is where we also, as Councillor Brown has said, is that we looked at funding, we applied for funding to support our grassroots organisations like yourselves, to be able to support your communities and carry on that work. I mean, one of the first things we did was we extended the holiday market program that we had, where we were just 5, 6, 7 years ago, just having this food poverty program, working together with schools, providing meals for families. But what we've done is we developed 36 food hubs right across the city. This involved all the community groups and churches and schools together. And these are being now delivered on a weekly basis, very much joined up working, and all credit to the groups and all credit to the council officers that have really supported and helped the groups to move along and identify also going forward, what is it that the Preston City Council needs to do? What is it more that we can do moving forward and moving out of this pandemic and post-pandemic as well? So I must say, just, the faith and community groups have been very, very pivotal. And we have been very fortunate through our officers in applying for funding, especially the Champions funding, which has enabled community groups to access this and carry on the vital work that is required. So I would just have to say that all credit.
Sorry, Councillor, sorry to interrupt, but you've been doing great, and obviously we are aware of the works with the mosque. And a question just come on to this, so that's why I thought I might as well ask you that. That is a question that mosques from Juliet Davidson. The mosques have with their loved ones, but Afro-Africans have not. That's not equality. So I think that's related to the next one. Sorry, Taz.
Yeah,
one.
Yeah, I'll just go to the message from Julie Davidson. It says, in our community, when a loved one has died because of the pandemic, we haven't been able to celebrate their passing by having, I assume it says a night or a wake.
A wake.
Where are we now? I'm just seeing where it's going. Yeah, so we're not allowed to, obviously, to celebrate their passing, obviously because they can't do a send off as they would do normally in their cultural obligation. And then obviously it refers on to mosques. Why in regards to mosques have been able to do it with their loved ones, but Afro-Caribbeans have not, and that they see that as an inequality. Is there anybody that would like to answer that one?
If I could come in on that, and I think that we've got to go back to during this pandemic, we've had to abide by the national guidelines, by the restrictions that have been imposed to local councils, to individuals. We have not discriminated as a council against any group. Whatever the guidelines were imposed on religious institutions, about funerals, about gatherings, about opening of churches and mosques, Hindu temples, we as a council implemented that in the best possible way.
Sorry, Taz, we're running out. Time's running past. Sorry, Councillor. I know you've elaborated, but I think the other councillors need a chance to reply to what, as the Liberal Democrats, because also as Conservatives, because there's a question here that the Conservatives, this is asked to yourself, Daniel. Tyler can highlight that about the Conservatives supporting the Windrush community. But before we go there, in terms of your own party, Daniel, you come from, you've been a champion for disabled rights and, doing all that work. And same with with the children's services with John and then Ron as well. So basically, as far as your parties are concerned, obviously we worked with the council quite close. We were from Deepdale Ward, but in general, as yourselves, what have you been doing in terms of working with the Councillor Navida just said 36 food hubs they've created. As for yourselves, if you go to Daniel, because he had some problems with having some internet problem.
Thank you, Cameron. Obviously,
Daniel?
disabled rights is. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, so obviously disabled rights is a big thing for me. Obviously having autism myself, having mobility problems myself, disabled rights is a big thing for me. And obviously championing that and making sure people have more social justice. but also obviously supporting people like Preston Windrush and Generation and Descendants. They do a fabulous job cooking meals every Friday. I've helped obviously deliver meals when I can and stuff, and the whole team does a fabulous job there. And obviously helping them, and Fullwood Food Bank as well. At the start of the pandemic, obviously delivering meals to people who were less fortunate, and delivering meals to people who couldn't get out. It's very important that we support people, you know, and support community groups like this. And I agree with Matthew and Nawida that, you know, it's about supporting people like this and pulling together really at a time like this.
So माशाल्लाह हमारे कंजर्वेटिव के जो है ये काउंसलर डेविड डैनियल डकवर्थ, इन्होंने भी यही कहा कि हम कम्युनिटी की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, मगर जैसे हमारी काउंसिल ने किया है 36 फूड हब वगैरह, तो इनकी कंपैरिजन में इनका इतना जो है वो नहीं आ रहा, मगर ये भी कोशिश कर रहे हैं। और जो हमारी विंडरश जनरेशन डिसेंडेंट्स कम्युनिटी है, यानी हमारे जो भाई हैं, हमारी कम्युनिटी है, वो भी दीपदल के भी हिस्से, पूरे प्रेस्टन का हिस्सा है। तो डैनियल ने ये भी एलैबोरेट किया कि वो कुक फूड वगैरह इसका भी वो करते हैं। तो ब्रदर Taz, I think if we can ask the same question to Councillor John Potter before you move on to the questions, please.
You're taking the words right out of my mouth. Next to you, John.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, obviously, as a group, we are not in control in either Lancashire County Council or Preston City. So it's important to, and I think Nawida will probably clarify that Preston City Council hasn't set up a lot of these hubs. These hubs are existing hubs that the councils help support. I think that's an important clarification, because I'm actually a volunteer at one of them. So like the Intact Centre in one of the poorest communities, not just in Preston, but in the country, in terms of the Ingle area, actually has been doing incredible work. And as a volunteer trustee of that organisation, doing things like a pantry system so people can spend £4 and get £30 worth of shopping, doing stuff like the Whitby's Homemade so they can get good, nutritious meals delivered to them, and as well as all the kind of other volunteer work that like all political parties do. I should just point this out. This isn't, I mean, all councillors from all colours do stuff in the community, but you don't become a councillor for the glory or the money. You do it because you want to do some good, regardless of political persuasion. And I think that's a really important thing to put out there, that, you know, that all of us, whether it's we're helping it, you know, as a vaccine marshal or a testing marshal, or stuff that I do helping with Intact and helping them get to as many people in the Ingle community as possible, we all do our bit. And it's really, really important that everyone here watching, everyone here on here, we can all do a bit, because unfortunately it tends to be the same 5-10% of people that do this sort of work. And I think it's incumbent on all of us to try and get, if everyone can do a little bit extra, then we can help even more people in this wonderful city.
Of course, जज़ाकल्लाह खैरन, इन्होंने भी यही मैसेज दिया, वही मैसेज जो काउंसलर नवीदा ने भी दिया और काउंसलर डैनियल ने भी दिया। तो इसलिए मुख्तसरन टाइम है, तो काउंसलर Ron, we go to Councillor Ron. Is that okay, Tayyip?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hello. Thank you. I'll just reiterate really what Daniel has already said about Windrush and the disability rights. We've tried to. He's tried to work very, very hard over the last 12 months, particularly in that area, and I'm very proud of the work he's done there to help. Listen, as Conservatives, we want, you know, an inclusive society here where, you know, we help everybody. And I agree with what Matthew was saying a little bit earlier. We need to work together with all the issues and problems surrounding Preston. And I'm not going to say we've got the solution to everything, because we haven't. But the important thing is moving forward now that we do liaise, work together to get the best for Preston. Now, the current pandemic, as we all know, has been a terrible situation for the area locally. Hopefully now, with the vaccine and the success of the vaccine, if we can get as many people jabbed as possible, local people will hopefully be able to get back to some normality, and we can see businesses expand again. We can see jobs and investment come back to the area, and hopefully very gradually, providing we stick to the roadmap set out by the government, we can start coming out of this awful situation we've had. And Preston, as we know, been very badly hit by the COVID pandemic. So lots of things to do. I don't have all the solutions to it. The councillors worked well. We've tried to work together to improve the situation and make it easier for people. Local funding as well. The government's given significant amount of funding to the local councils in terms of business grants. I think about over 45 million has been given out by the government to help the local area, and a further 21 million in the local towns fund to help Preston as well. So there is money there coming in. The important thing is, as I say, we work together, inclusive society, and try and move out of this pandemic as best as we can to get the best for Preston. But all the work that's been done by everybody within all the parties, I think, has been admirable. And let's hope that things can move forward.
Sorry to interrupt. We've only got time, so I'm going to interrupt you now because we got many questions, and we'll try to keep them briefly if you can. And again, in उर्दू में यही है कि वो वही मैसेज दे रहे हैं कि हम मिलजुल कर करेंगे और फंडिंग भी है और इसको अपनाएंगे और कम्युनिटी ग्रुप्स काम करेंगे काउंसिल के और काउंटी काउंसिल के साथ, और इंशाअल्लाह वे आउट जो कोविड का रास्ता है बाहर निकलने का इंशाअल्लाह रोशनी आएगी इंशाअल्लाह जरूर इंशाअल्लाह. Tahir, can we
change the topic? Yeah, moving the question. One of the questions I've got here, and I've got it here for Councillor Navida Khan, is: we hear Preston is known as a city of sanctuary. What does that actually mean?
Well, that means really that, well, Preston City of Sanctuary was set up in 2016, 2017. We recognise and we have many asylum seekers, many refugees, in particular the cohort of refugees that came into the UK, into many cities in 2016 and were settled. So Preston City of Sanctuary was set up with many other cities as well. We actually are an unincorporated body. It's just mainly volunteers that support Preston City of Sanctuary. So we're the representatives of our asylum seekers and refugees. We raise and work with Asylum Matters, which is a national organisation that campaigns and advocates on behalf of asylum seekers and refugees, looking at their immigration, looking at certain issues and concerns, so that we can raise it to that level, national governmental level, to say that these human rights, they deserve the same in human rights as anybody else, right? Irrelevant if they're an asylum seeker or a refugee. Whilst their immigration is being processed, we help them and support them to signpost them to ensure that they get the right accessible services within this city. And that is what Preston City of Sanctuary is all about. It's about supporting one of our most vulnerable groups in our city, in our countries. And as you know, many of these people have come through very turmoil and turbulent and very challenging political situations to arrive in countries, and some of them are waiting up to 10 to 12 years, and they still do not have a response and an answer from the Home Office as well, whether they will be whether they will gain any status or position here to become, you know, a resident. So Preston City of Sanctuary supports them, campaigns on behalf of them, and raises many, many issues on their behalf. One of them is called Lift the Ban. And Lift the Ban is all about the entitlement of an asylum seeker to be able to work. They only receive £5.35 a day to be able to work after 6 months. So it's all about their conditions and, you know, where they're living as well, because a lot of their services, homes are procured. There's external services, groups that are being brought in by the government. Serco, for example, they're one of the ones that provide the housing and procure the housing for asylum seekers. So it's a condition of housing as well. So these are all the issues and concerns. And once again, it's that humanitarian concern, you know, and that level. that we work
Thank
with.
you. Thank you, Councillor. That is beautifully summarised, and it sounds amazing. Obviously, the title in itself and all the work. In terms of, then I can summarise in one Urdu sentence because we're already out of time. And so basically, I've got questions here as well, being texted to me as well. We will have to do part 2. But anyway, Councillor Ron, what's your take upon refugees, asylum seekers, and this city of sanctuary?
Councillor Ron, can I just add on to that? On £163.50 a month to live on that, is that acceptable in today's day and age for an asylum seeker?
No.
Councillor, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear now. Sorry, could you repeat the question, please?
What first of the question part of that was your take as the sanctuary of which Councillor Naveed, city of sanctuary outlines and the work is doing with asylum seekers and refugees. What is the Conservatives basically take upon that? Are you working with the city of sanctuary or on the same wavelength, or have you got a different way? And Taz, my co-host, asked that can somebody live on £160, is it, a month?
£163.50 a month.
Yes.
Yeah. Interesting. Obviously, £163 a month isn't a lot of money, and we wouldn't want anybody to be expected to live on that sort of wage, to live on that sort of income, should I say. The work that's being done is fabulous. We must help and protect, obviously, people in this situation. And I think any work that's been done so far is very admirable and must obviously continue. As I said earlier, we want to see an inclusive society and a society where people feel welcome and included. And, this sort of work must continue in the future. I'm very much very supportive of it.
Thank you very much for that, reiterating the message. यही है कि इनके पास उसका सवाल जवाब तो नहीं है कि इसके ऊपर £163 के आप गुजारा कर सकते हैं, नहीं, वो तो एक बात की है, मगर यही कह रहे हैं कि हमें मिलजुल कर यही काम करना चाहिए और जो प्रेस्टन सिटी सैंक्चुरी बनी है इसके साथ काम करना चाहिए और ये काम अच्छा कर रहे हैं. Councillor John, if we can quickly, if you can touch upon that as well, please.
Yes, thank you.
What do you think?
From Lib's point of view, nationally, we do actually have the Liberal Democrat Seekers of Sanctuary group, which deals specifically for this, to raise issues and make sure that the Liberal Democrats are always at the top for calling for help for refugees and those at most vulnerable. And we should remember that the world has actually become a very scary place in a lot of places. And across the world, I mean, right now, there's a lot of talk about what can we do about the people of Hong Kong who are feeling under enormous political pressure, and whether what we can do. Has Preston City Council reached out to people in Hong Kong who've been offered a chance to have a quick visa to come over here? Can we do that? Can we help people from areas that are facing enormous pressures on their civil liberties? But we all have to do it together. And so, from my point of view, from Lib Dems, we will always be a champion for freedom of movement and to be able to, if you're in terror, if you're in fear for your life, if you're have a life that we can't even imagine in this country, then we should always be open, because that is the Britain that I believe in, a liberal, progressive Britain with its arms open to the most poorest and vulnerable in the world.
Thank you very much. यही है कि ये कह रहे हैं कि इनका भी यही मौजू है और यही ओपन आर्म अप्रोच कर रहे हैं रेफ्यूजी असाइलम सीकर के लिए, और वाकई इन्होंने ये भी कहा कि हांगकांग के लिए भी कुछ करना चाहिए सिटी काउंसिल. So I'll take that question straight to Matthew, I think, if you don't mind, Taz, because that question was asked, is the city reaching out to Hong Kong and communities afar?
Yeah, we can look at doing that. I do remember receiving something about it before, but I'll chase that up, because there was something that came, I think, through UCLan students about that. So that's something we'll look at. But about the issue more generally, obviously, refugees and asylum seekers, obviously, they're actually in a position that none of us would envy. So I just think we've got to have a different mindset about the way that we actually look at them, because my own view is, the media tends to be owned by quite wealthy people that wants to divide working people. So they often will misrepresent refugees and asylum seekers often into something that they're not really. And you get that with benefit claimants, and you've had it with trade unionists, you've had it with, people of ethnic minorities before, LGBT people. I think it's a way to divide us. So, I just think we've got to open our minds and our hearts that people are in these situations. It's not their fault. And then what? Final thing might sound a little controversial. Some of our past military endeavours have not really helped these situations, because we've been involved in the Iraq War and other wars, which have actually, in many ways, led to more refugees, and it's not actually made the region safer, to be honest. So we managed to invade other countries, and we've not put the infrastructure in after we've so-called conquered them, and then we've actually had increases in refugees and other things, really. So I think we need to do all those things. I think we need to really open our hearts to what people are going through.
So thank you very much, Councillor. I'm going to interrupt on you. You're doing fantastic work. We know what you're doing, and we know what you're all doing, in fact, and that's why you're here, to be celebrated. You're our heroes, regardless of what party you're from. I'm not a political person, and basically, Councillor, all you councillors and county councillors have been doing their remit. So ये वही कह रहे थे कि हमारा तो मौजू यही है कि जो asylum seeker, refugee, उनकी सपोर्ट करें, और बाकिया जो फॉरेन पॉलिसीज का जो असरात पड़े हैं पूरी दुनिया में, वो आपके सामने ही है, तो इसलिए काफी काम करने की जरूरत है. So there's a question here I would like to really ask Councillor Daniel, because I'm a disabled person myself in a wheelchair. A bit a selfish question, but somebody's asked anyway, so I'll take benefit. Daniel, it was saying is that as you have been championing, to make awareness of physical disabled and hidden invisible disabilities, as yourself, how far do you think you have made the progress of getting equal rights, equal opportunities for disabled people? I think that's all in that remit. How would you like to just touch upon that? You're struggling with your voice. I think
you're on mute, my friend.
I think you're on mute, Daniel. If you can,
can you hear me now? Is that better?
Yes, that's better. Right, you heard the question.
That's good.
Quickly, if you can elaborate, please. Thank you.
Yeah. So I hope, obviously, I'm raising the awareness within Preston and raising the awareness. I think it's important that everybody is more socially and culturally aware of, people who are disabled, both hidden and invisible disabilities. And I think it's important that the awareness is there, and that we do more as a society to challenge people's views, and do better, really. And I hope everybody else agrees. And we need to COVID has shown what we can do. Yeah. Pulling together, and I think we need to work on that. Whatever political party, we need to pull together and work on that.
जो डिसेबल माजूर लोगों के लिए ये माशाल्लाह काउंसिल डानियल ने बहुत काम किया है, खुद भी माजूर है, और यही कह रहे हैं कि हम कोविड के लिए भी, और हमारे काउंसलर्स ने भी तो काम किया है, इसमें भी काउंसिल भी कर रही है, और जो केयर होम्स के साथ भी और दूसरे वगैरह. मगर I think on that take, Councillor Naveed, supporting this can come together. And I'll ask this question quickly, that basically we only got 15 minutes, but I'm going to be a bit with the questions I've got. I'm going to try to get them in.
No problem.
So sorry me putting in like that, taking over half of your program. Well, we
don't worry about it.
Right?
Next time,
so anyway,
next time I know to take a vaccine.
Councillor Naveed, in that sense, basically, the problems with the disabled, right? The other thing is mental health, working with the mental health, the depression, in terms of, if you briefly elaborate, what have you been doing to try to improve mental health? That will go to all of you, and if you can answer that in a minute, please, that would be great.
Can I just add another thing on there? You've obviously got the town fund or the youth development fund, the 21.8 or 20.8 million that was announced for Preston. How can that be added on to disability and the youth development?
Definitely, very good.
Just to add that to the mix.
Yeah, so we worked well together, Ty. MashaAllah.
Yeah. I think just to respond to the mental health and well-being, I mean, even prior to COVID, we recognised that people's mental health was greatly affected. Sectors and pockets within the community, especially even young people, the suicide rates when we looked at that. So we've been addressing that. We have a mental health champion within the council that works on and works with services as well as, within the community engagement team. We have various projects and initiatives going on. I mean, we've got an area of work when we work with homeless who have very complex issues around alcohol, drug use, and these complex issues. We have a particular project which is called MEAN, Making Every Adult Matter. And making every adult matter is meaning in itself is that taking things very seriously, individually looking at those issues and concerns. Now, if we fast track forward and say what are our plans post-COVID, it is a priority area for us, especially with young people. We recognise that they've been greatly impacted, their emotional health and well-being, and also around, individual protected characteristics as well. So there will be particular initiatives and areas of work. We've put it into our manifesto, and I'm sure Councillor Brown will now lead on that, and especially your question around what we're doing around youth provision. We recognise that we don't have enough youth provision within Preston itself, and the Lancashire County Council actually deprived us of what would have been a great youth facility within Preston, and they did not put the resources into it. But I'm sure Councillor Brown will be able to lead on from it, from my answers to your question. Is that okay with yourself, Cameron?
Yeah, that's great. That's great. जज़ाकल्लाह खैरन काउंसलर ऑब्वियसली इन्होंने यही कहा है कि जो बच्चे हैं माजूर हैं और उसके अलावा जो जिनको मेंटल हेल्थ है या ड्रग्स इश्यूज हैं ये इसके टैकल कर रहे हैं, इनिशिएटिव्स भी इन्होंने शुरू की हैं और यूथ के बारे में ये कह रहे हैं और काउंसलर जो मैथ्यू है वो इसके बारे में कुछ कहेंगे इंशाल्लाह. Matthew, if you can elaborate on that, please.
Yeah, I mean, just briefly, obviously, we have been successful within the Towns Fund. We've wanted a youth zone for some time in the city centre. That'll now be happening, we think, so that's good. So obviously, a big part of that will be engaging with youth around jobs and culture and other things, but crucially mental health, because younger people, I mean, society is very intense, isn't it? And young people get all kinds of messages about, what to think and what they should do and lots of pressures. So, it's really important we have a really strong mental health element going forward there. In terms of young people more generally, obviously, what we want to do is try to find some resource to tackle, to try and engage younger people in diversionary activity, because we are seeing instances of knife crime and other things that are taking place in our community. Obviously, drugs. There's lots of people who try to get young people involved in drugs, often pimps, so it's centralised around county lines. So we want to try and engage with younger people, and also BME young people as well, to actually, encourage them to actually express themselves and do something creative and not be tempted by, these things.
The work is carrying on. I mean, the message is simple. The work is there, it's happening, and look out for the funding which will be spent around this. Sorry to interrupt you there, मगर यही गुजारिश कि अभी टाइम मुख्तसर है, तो इसलिए अगर उर्दू या पंजाबी या किसी ज़बान में आपको इन्फॉर्मेशन चाहिए तो आप अपनी काउंसिल या काउंटी काउंसिल से रब्ता करें, वो आपको ये प्रोवाइड करेगी, या अपनी मसाजिद या जो इदारा है आपका दीन का चर्च है वगैरह उनसे आप रब्ता करें. तो दूसरी just quickly there, if I can quickly move on to Councillor John, because I understand your background is education and children. So is that right, Councillor John? I'm
on the Education Scrutiny Committee. I have been for a number of years. But in the what would you like to ask me something specifically about that, or about mental health?
Would that relate into your role, or would you add to that as what the council is doing for the children or the young mental health and that kind of
it's very, very complex, because we don't have parity across these services. So if a child or you or I break our leg, we're seen by a doctor within hours. If someone has a serious mental condition, they sometimes have to wait months. And we're not going to solve this thing unless we get parity, not just between mental health and physical health, but also social health as well. And one thing that's really critical that no party has grasped, and we're still waiting for a government plan on it, is how we deal with social care, both adult and child, because the system is creaking. You know, it will take a vast sum of money. And the problem is, if you don't tackle social care, then the adults end up in A&E, and then A&E gets full. And if we don't tackle social care for kids, you end up having more problems later on. It costs you more money and leads to all sorts of issues for that child as well. And we are very lucky in our party. And we have Councillor Debbie Hammond.
We really appreciate it for your question.
I'll stop there.
It's very important. But I want to bring Councillor Ron in here, and this relates with that as well, youth services, and then obviously what Councillor John is elaborating about the need of social, betterment. And basically, the question is here from the Windrush generation, descendants of Preston, Lancashire, and they said there's two questions from different people. One was that is there any sign of a building, but then later on, we got a question from Jen, Jen's very active, doing great work with the community, especially with the Windrush generation, Preston. So, I mean, the question is that, they were promised, or they're looking for a building to do all this work. They'll go straight to this. The Windrush generation have been asking for a building, and 12 months later, still nothing. Do you think it looks great? Any way that they're going to get it? I mean, I think the last part, do you think it looks great? It's a bit of an eye-opener. What do you say to that, Councillor Ron? And then we'll go to Matthew as well on that one. Wind generation, they're doing fantastic work. And if you want to tackle social and all that, inequalities and everything, then obviously it's a big community and great work's being done. And there's many questions on this, and we're not going to go into that because we will have our Windrush generation representatives soon coming on a program just for them, and we will have the people to answer this question for them. But is there a possibility from the Conservatives, from your council, Matthew, or from county council side, that would they be able to get such a building where they can carry out all this work?
Well, I mean, the issue we have is we actually don't have an awful lot of buildings that we actually own ourselves as a city council that are vacant, but we'll try to facilitate whatever conversations we can to make that happen. There's conflicting demands. There's other community groups that are showing interest in wanting buildings all the time, but I just say have a conversation with Nuida and I, because it's Nuida's portfolio mainly in the council. We'll see what we can actually do. Ideally, we could probably do to have a facility where we get
in unity, maybe working united. If there's a place like PNE's got or Preston Community Hub's got, can be shared, or Kathleen Beckett is a place.
That's what I was going to say, Cameron, because there isn't an awful lot of spare buildings going around. Sadly, austerity has really affected our capacity to actually deal with these things as much as we'd like. But we'll do what we can. So I just say, set up a meeting with us and we'll discuss it further.
Yeah, councils are working closely with Windrush generation, so please do contact Jen with that. And there is another question here as well. Sorry, I was asking yourself as well, Councillor Ron, as the county councillor, if you were to become the county councillor, or obviously Conservatives are in control, is there a possibility of getting a building for the Windrush generation in the near future?
Yeah, thank you. At this stage, I would hesitate to give any confirmation about that. I need to really explore that in a little bit more detail and discuss it, obviously, with my colleagues and other parties as well. As Matthew said, the problem is there aren't a lot of buildings about. Whether part of the Towns Fund that has been allocated by the government could be utilised towards that effort. Again, we'd need to explore, but I wouldn't like to give a confirmatory answer on that.
Well, okay, that's fine. I'm just going to the next question. With the rise of racism and racial disparities, what do each political party aim to achieve at the strategic level? Education, police representation. I think that in itself is a question which can be, taken a few programs upon. But quick message, Matthew. What's the aim, future, planning? About this tackling, getting equal rights in terms of education, police representation. and that question comes, next question to it is joining, you can answer it, that what's the diversity in your city council? And then I'll ask the county councillor as well the same question.
I think can I just elaborate on that? I think the question in regards to looking at equality and all that is probably just give a platform if each party gives a platform in regards to what ethnic minority people you have on your boards or on your councillors, and I think that kind of gives a flavour, to give a bit of a diversity in regards to what sort of people are being represented within our communities.
Oh, that's great. Thank you for explaining that better. So Frank, can we go to county council? And if you could just, I know you are a county councillor, but you're not on the cabinet. But if you can just tell us the diversity on the cabinet, as you know, you would know them obviously.
Well, we have also the equality champions as well. Besides,
no, I don't mean as you. We're talking about this as a cabinet, existing cabinet, because I did try to get somebody from the cabinet from county council. Unfortunately, they could not. It was a bit short notice. I understand that, but as you are a county councillor, you see that the cabinet is that diverse enough.
Well, where is diverse or not is something whereby we cannot control.
No, I understand that, councillor. Why I'm asking you, in your opinion, how many? If I put it like this, then in a like my layperson's question, that how many women are there? How many the BAME? I don't even like saying that word, but anyway, that's what it is, right?
Okay, if I can answer, if I can go to the labor side first of all, we got out of 30 county council, there's roughly 15, you know, women and men. So that is well spread out, isn't it? Now regarding the administration, I think they got a mixed bag as well, but I don't know the exact number.
Okay, so you think it's
the cabinet? The cabinet is dominated by, I think, by men rather than women at this present time.
Ethnic minority?
Ethnic minority? I don't think there's any.
There's not one.
Councillor Ron?
Yeah. So
let's move on. Let's move on. That's fine. We'll come back to yourself, Councillor John. Matthew, as the head of council, how about yourself?
In terms of representation within the group, we've got I think we've got 9 out of 30 women, but we want to head to 50%. Well, that is better than it was a few years back. In terms of BME representation on the Labour group, we've got about 9 or 10 now. But again, that has improved as well. There's obviously we've got Naween, who's in our cabinet, and we've got 5 chairs of committees, 3 of them are BME as well. But in terms of cabinet representation, obviously we want to make that more representative in the forthcoming years, hopefully, make sure there's more women and more BME representatives on there.
Can we go to Councillor Ron on that as well, please? Councillor, yourself, obviously you're going to become, hopefully you want to become the county councillor. What do you think?
Yeah, I think looking ahead, in my case, it's certainly very important that we have a diverse sector within our parties and for the BME as well. And it's certainly something we will be encouraging and looking for, because it is very important. As I said, for the inclusive society, we have to ensure that every sector of is represented. So very supportive of that. As I say, I can't speak. I'm not on Lancashire County yet.
Obviously. Yeah, you've given your vision. What about John? Sorry, Richard John, sorry.
Yeah, so very quickly, the Conservative Cabinet at Lancashire County Council has no ethnic minority than 1 woman out of the whole cabinet. So as regards to the Lib Dems, I shouldn't preach too much because we have been terrible at it. And I'll be honest with you, we have been very white and very male. But actually, we have had a female leader. We now have 33% of our councillors as female. We have 1 non-binary councillor, the first non-binary councillor in the council, I believe. But here's what we have to do, because I recognise we haven't been good enough, and I think we have to accept that. And so, in our target seat, our held seat, we have a new candidate, and we will elect, touch wood, our first Asian-descended councillor on Preston City Council. And I think that's what all political parties that have a poor record of diversity need to do. You don't just put them in a seat where you've got no chance of winning. We are going to have Fayaz elected to this council, to Preston City Council, in May. And that's the biggest statement we can say to all ethnic minorities, to women, to anyone that's underrepresented, including the disabled, is that actually we will promote you to seats where you can win, because that's the only way you can make change.
I think you've touched on that, John, and this is the question again asked, that basically in the future from the wider community, how can citizens get involved, especially there is not enough representation from the African Caribbean community. Don't you think there should be change? Of course, I think everyone's elaborated that. It's no point asking that question. I will ask that question, a question and say, of course, they all want that. And we need to see the reality, and that's what they are here for us. And like I said, we got to recognize the good work. We can't just be negative, right? There is a lot. Can I
ask a question here?
That's come from this. Yes.
Yeah, I think in regards to, I think looking at local Preston Council level, there's probably a decent, if not fair, representation of people from all walks of life, especially the BAME community, the disabled community. So there's people represented. But obviously, what John's alluded to and what Councillor Frank said in regards to city council level, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, especially if you're telling me you've got a full cabinet and there's not even one. There's one female.
That's the county.
That's the county. So So that then brings me down to, if you've not got anybody from the BAME communities within the county council kind of scenario of cabinet meetings, then you're not understanding the BAME communities' issues. So it's quite a relevant and a pertinent point.
Very important work. And I think everyone understands that we all need to do that work.
Can I say that? Can I say that, please, if I may? As I said before, in our group, we got a leader, which is from the active minority. We got quite a number of, active minority ladies as well, on the Labour side. So the selection is good in there for us. But obviously, you need to bring more in. Agree.
I think there's a question here which I'm going to answer first, because the question is saying, is this a tick thing kind of event that is just about ticking boxes? My dear respected, whoever's asked that question, with utmost respect, as you know, me, Madad, and also Dibda Community Association, Preston Community Hub is a non-political organization. We brought these people forward to you as your councillors, as our representatives from all wards, different of Preston. They're all Prestonians. They all want to deliver work, right? And we brought that to the panel. And I think it'll be a bit of a disrespect if I ask that question to these people who have given the Sunday evening and basically then ask them, that, are you here to take boxes? That's between them and the intention, but I think the work is in front of us. And there's another question which I'm not going to touch upon, but I'm going to say and reassure our Preston Windrush generation who is part of us. We are as one humanity, and as the Holy Quran announces, that you have been put into different nations, so you may be recognized. Surely in the sight of your Lord is that who does good. So basically, that is a fantastic work they have been doing with youth work and other works and food poverty, and bringing curriculum syllabus to change about the history of slavery and things like that all across the world, in fact. So, we applaud them. And this question about, have you read the report, the report, Windrush report, and which lay bears inherited racism of the British state. Now, that is a detailed report, and I'm sure all the respected councillors have read it and want to make their, contributions to make the changes. But that's another program, another event, because that deserves a full program, if not a few programs. So we can't really go into that question and that what is going on in terms of COVID. Obviously, you've seen the work the councillors are doing. Your own community councillors. Go to them. And May's elections there, use your vote, use your voice. And I think that we can conclude quickly on a 1 minute each. Tahir, if it's all right, if they can just highlight what's the road to recovery like. We'll start with Matthew.
Yeah, thank you very much, Cameron. It's been a fantastic event, and Taz, I've really enjoyed it. Just in terms of what we want to do in the Labour Party, we want to tackle social injustice. That is one of our main priorities, and recover our city. The economic model we've had in this country for the last 40 years has really exposed how inequalities have meant that the gap between rich and poor, too many people have lost out, and they've actually been disproportionately affected, including BME communities. So we want to change the system in the Labour Party. That means we promote a real living wage. As you say, we've got the Towns Fund. We're going to regenerate our city centre. We do that by public endeavour. We're very keen on expanding the cooperative economy, so people work in businesses they actually own themselves instead of an outside employer. We want to establish a bank, so we keep wealth within our community. We want to make sure that our big institutions, including the council, buy goods and services locally as well. We want to see a cultural renewal of our city centre. That's going to be a big part of what we're going to do. We want our big institutions to hire people, especially from our minority communities and are less well off, where unemployment's higher. And then obviously we want to make sure that we improve the infrastructure and the environment in the city centre, so we get the city centre and the economy working again. So that's our plan for COVID recovery.
As well. Sorry, go. So, did you say something, Taz? There, sorry. So moving on. So, Councillor, one thing, obviously, there's a big issues around Arga Road, and that question has been asked. But today, it was great to see the councillors, Councillor Siraz, Councillor Zafar Copeland, and County Councillor Frank, and Andy Pratt as well. We applaud him. He came out from Penwortham side. He climbed into the railway line, and we're hopeful that Network Rail will do something about it. We've been a county council, everyone, just to reassure the public कि ये ना समझे कि ये सवाल नहीं किया गया, ये सवाल बहुत चला है, 2-3 साल हो गए हैं, और काउंटी काउंसिल फ्रैंक भी आ जाए और उन्होंने भी इस पर किया है, और ये आर्गर रोड का सिचुएशन है, ये भी हो रहा है क्योंकि इसमें प्लानिंग में है कि रीसर्फिस होने का आर्गर रोड. सो बेसिकली इस पर हम इतनी गुफ्तगू नहीं की क्योंकि ये पूरे प्रेस्टन का एक प्लेटफॉर्म था. तो अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह आज जो हमारे आए थे काउंटी काउंसलर फ्रैंक और काउंसलर सिराज, काउंसलर Daniel Duckworth came out, and on a Sunday, and they were more than the people, so we were grateful for that with social distancing, and they went in and it helped and it raised the awareness for the railway and say such things. So Councillor Frank, just quickly if you can please, road to recovery from yourself.
My message, Cameron, is very clear. Is to fight for the people which they are most in need. That's what my aim is to fight for everybody, especially the people which today we discuss about it, the active minority, the people, the refugees, people like that. That's what we need to fight for and bring them to some kind of comfort, because that's what it's all about. Because definitely there's a lot of people suffering in this country, especially with the pandemic, and and we need to pull all the stops out. We've done that. We together 6 county councillors not long ago donated X number of pounds to the Ashton Methodist so that they could feed the children, the families in Plungington, in Deepdale, in Ashton, and so on, and we keep supporting them until the death. Thank you
very much. Thank you very much, Frank. बहुत खूबसूरत पैगाम था कि जो गरीब है, जिनकी ज़रूरत है, जिन हज़रात को ज़रूरत है, इस मुल्क में आए हैं पनाह लेने के लिए, रेफ्यूजी, asylum seeker और डिसेबल और वनरेबल, बीमार और बुजुर्ग, उनके लिए ये कोशिश करती जारी रहेगी. और Frank county councillors over 16-17 years. I can remember, Frank, when they were going to take my ramp away, because they wanted to take my ramp away because they said you can build a ramp inside your house. I said, how am I going to get my wheelchair in? So Frank saved the day. Thank you very much, Frank. I'm not just being there, but that was the truth. Anyway, moving on to Councillor Ron. Thank you for coming, and what's final message about the road to recovery?
Yes, thank you very much. I very much enjoyed listening to the debate tonight. It's very interesting. I picked up a lot of very useful information. Very, very briefly, I think we've all suffered very greatly through the pandemic. We've got to follow the government's roadmap out now and stick to that roadmap. ensuring that everybody is vaccinated as soon as possible. It's the only way forward for us to see light at the end of the tunnel now. But the key thing is now to get Preston back on its feet, get employment going, encourage jobs, get the investment back into the city so that we can see more jobs generated, and generally engage with the public. There's going to be a lot of issues with mental health, as we've already mentioned earlier, as a result of the pandemic. I think we really need to engage and address this very closely, working with all the local institutions on that. But roadmap engine must get the roadmap followed through now to completion in order to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. काउंसलर ने भी यही पैगाम दिया है कि मिलजुल कर काम करेंगे और बाकी के जो हमारी इकोनॉमी है इसको वापस अपने उरूज पर लाएं और काम जिनके चले गए हैं उनको जो काम की ज़रूरियात है वो भी पूरी करें। तो ये इनका पैगाम था कंजर्वेटिव पार्टी का। और हमारी काउंसलर नवीद है और जो माशाल्लाह with the communities has been working hard, especially with the grassroots organizations. So final message from yourself, Councillor.
Yeah, firstly, thank you very much, Cameron and Ty, for inviting me here today. I would just like to say that I think we need to continue with our equality agenda about it being inclusive, and also on the road to recovery, about continuing with our collaboration and partnership, working with our grassroots organisations and our VCFS sector, you know, the voluntary community faith sector organisations who have been crucial and part of, you know, we've learned a lot from them. We've got a lot more to learn, and let's continue with this partnership working, and let's not forget about our communities. And let's work together and work going forward.
यही हमारा काउंसलर का पैगाम था कि जो इन्होंने काम का आगाज किया, इस पैंडेमिक में इंसानियत को मिल गई, एक इंसानियत को एक जज्बा मिला, और ये पॉजिटिव था कोविड का कि हम इंसानियत मिलकर आई, जिस मजहब का कुछ जो बैकग्राउंड मिलकर आया, और जो इंसानियत जिनकी ज़रूरियात थी हमारी कम्युनिटी में उसमें हमने पूरी की, इनके साथ मिलकर इन्होंने तावन किया, और यही इनकी उम्मीद है कि ऐसा ही काम ये जारी रखेंगे और बाकिया जितने भी ग्रुप के साथ ये काम करने के लिए तैयार हैं। Jazakallah khairan. And now coming to Council Daniel, Dr. With, how about yourself? Road to recovery after COVID, hope is soon. So, what would you like to say?
Well, thank you, Taz, and thank you, Cameron, for inviting me. As Matthew and everybody else has said, I think it's about pulling together now, and obviously working with yourself, working with people like yourselves, working with Preston Windrush, obviously focusing on disability and raising awareness on that. And obviously mental health, and supporting people who need, you know, supporting those who most need it, really, and working together and pulling together, and I think is the way forward, really.
Thank you very much. यही उन्होंने ये पैगाम दिया, और ये खुद भी मजबूर है, बहुत काम कर रहे हैं, अल्लाह इनको मजीद हिम्मत दे, आमीन. और if we move on to Councillor John Potter from the Liberal Democrats. Thank you, John, for joining us and sharing views.
No, thank you so much for inviting me. I suppose my roundup of the whole thing is that we've actually had a couple of last questions about listening to constituents, and actually that's what not enough councillors do. I've just realised, because I've been elected for, like, say, 10 years, I realised that I've just passed my 30,000th kind of canvas attempt of people, and I think too many councillors get into town hall or county hall and forget about the people that put them there. And whatever recovery we're going to have has to be community-led. It has to be from the ground up, not top down, that organisations like this are supported. We know that local councils have been extraordinarily stretched during this pandemic. And if we want that to survive, then councils have to be supported so they can support groups like this. There's no other way around it. And the only other thing I want to talk about, just very briefly, is that all this stuff, rather COVID, Brexit, anything else, pales in capacity to what's going to happen if we don't deal with the climate agenda. Climate emergency will affect every single citizen in this thing. We want better air quality so our kids don't have breathing problems when they get older. So all this must be taken into account, but it must stem from the ground up. It must start in our communities, and those communities have to be supported. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great message. Obviously, इन्होंने भी यही कहा है कि देखिए हम मिलजुल कर काम करेंगे और साथ इन्होंने इन्वायरमेंट को टच किया है कि इन्वायरमेंट पर इतनी अहमियत है और जो ग्रास रूट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ये आगे आए और काउंसिल और काउंटी काउंसिल का यही है कि होना चाहिए कि वो ग्रास रूट जो यानी ग्रास रूट का मतलब ये है कि जो हमारी जैसी कम्युनिटी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, वॉलंटियर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, फेथ बेस्ड, नॉन फेथ बेस्ड, यानी मस्जिद की जो कमेटीज हैं या चर्च की कमेटीज या मंदिर वगैरह की जो भी है जो काम कर रही है कम्युनिटी के लिए, वो आगे बढ़े और वो अपनी कम्युनिटी के मसाइल इनके आगे रखें और इनका काम है कि ये हमारे साथ मशवरा करें। हमारा दीन भी कहता है मशवरा करें, मशवरा अच्छी चीज़ है, ये सुन्नत मुस्तफ़ा है सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम, तो इसलिए ये कह रहे हैं कि ये मिलजुल कर ही काम होगा और हमें चाहिए कि हमारे इन्वायरमेंट, हमारे बच्चे जो क्लीन एयर ब्रीथ करें। ये देखो आगर रोड का पोल्यूशन का बहुत मसाइल हैं और ये चीज़ें हमने हाईलाइट की है और कोविड आया और थोड़ा बेसिकली डाइवर्जन हुई, बट वी बैक ऑन ट्रैक। आज आपने देखा है। Taz, can you sum me up finally?
Yeah, just
I would like to make a little prayer on the end, please.
Yeah, a big thank you to every representative from each party. I think I've learned a lot. Definitely, I've learned a lot, and I think you've all made some valuable points. And I think I love the phrase "actions speak louder than words." And I think the councillors that are coming in, again, there is elections on the 6th of May. Whoever comes forward, good luck to you. But again, I think it's grassroots, getting you working from the bottom up. And I think the only way you can make a difference is by actually, sticking to that momentum, that motivation, and that philosophy, really, that actions speak louder than words. And you have to get the community involved and get behind the community to make sure that things change for the betterment. Because we're all proud Prestonians. We're resilient. We've shown in a pandemic how much we can work together. This is probably the first time in many years where there's been no difference between colour, creed, religion, anything. It's all been about working together as one proud Preston community, and I think that has to be the message going forward.
There were questions asked. जज़ाकुल्लाह खैरन, जो हमारे भाई ने कहा है आपको समझ आएगी कि हम मिलजुल कर इनके साथ काम करेंगे तो इनकी वोट जो है सही जगह पर जाए और अपनी वोट को इस्तेमाल करें तो ये काम आगे बढ़ेगा इंशाअल्लाह. Finally, once again from Preston Community Hub, from Deepdale Community Association, and from me, Madad, basically we thank you for all joining us and giving us your Sunday evening, giving us your time, and we are grateful for the work you have done. Yes, like I said, there are celebrations for the achievements, but there are some mistakes where we have to learn, and that's the whole point of coming together. And then there is the basically the road to recovery plan, what the future is, and hopefully what we've learned and the community momentum we come together basically has taught us much, and we will be united and we'll fight the pandemic and we'll come out better as humanity. So we'll make a final prayer. We end our prayer with the prayer that may God Almighty rid us of the pandemic and rid us of the calamities and difficulties which the humanity is facing, bestow peace upon the war-ridden countries like Syria, grant freedom to Kashmir and Palestine and Palestine and the countries like such war, revolutions and calamities. Amen. And we pray to God Almighty that rid us of this calamity of COVID. You have tested us, and now we are weak. We are begging your court to remove this calamity and difficulty from us, from humanity. Amen. And we pray for those who are passed away, that may God Almighty elevate them to the highest paradise. And then we pray for their families, that God Almighty gives them peace and ease. And those who are ill in hospital, may God Almighty give them cure and give them speedy recovery, and bless all humanity with that ease. Amen. And we pray, there's a young mother who just had a baby girl, and unfortunately she's on life support.
Baby boy.
Baby boy. Thank you, Shoaib. And the baby boy was born healthy, and may God keep him healthy and give him happiness and prosperity in his life. Amen. But the mother is in intensive care. Sister Hina Iqbal, may Allah, God Almighty, grant her shifa, cure, and grant her speedy recovery. And May Allah Almighty bless all humanity. Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much for joining us. And once again, there's some question here. When can we contact Tahir and Taz Ali and Kamran? This is from our Windrush community. Don't worry, we will get in contact with yourselves very soon. And we're part of the community, and you probably know us as well. So thank you very much for all your support, everyone out there. Thank you very much. Take care. Have a peaceful day. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Cameron. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Okay.